Hi, folks. So next piece on our journey to analyze a text by citing textual evidence in order to support our idea is actually to start identifying and using some strong, thorough, and explicit evidence. So let's dive in. So first thing we need to understand is, what do I mean by citing evidence? Well, a citation is any quotation or reference to a book, an article, an author, a poem, a movie, anything that you're going to pull in that's not yours, that you're going to use to support your own idea, observation, or opinion. So anything that you're pulling from outside of you to back up your own thoughts, that's technically a citation. Specifically, we're going to focus kind of on the quotation parts of this. So using an author's direct words, we're going to pull it into our own writing and use it for support. So when I talk about evidence, what I'm really meaning is that anything that you can see, point to, or experience, or have been told that you can use to help identify and back up your belief that something is true. And so how this applies and kind of shakes out in terms of literature is, when we read a book, we're going to have ideas about, here's what's important, and here's what I think this means, and here's the overall, theme of the story. And I need to back that up, right? Those are all opinions. So I need to back those up with things that I can explicitly point to and see or infer from the reading that we've done. And so once we have kind of our idea of, here's what I think about the story, we're going to back it up with that piece of evidence. Here's how I'm going to support what I believe. So we can think of a claim as kind of my opinion, my thoughts. My evidence is the kind of the facts that support my thoughts. And then I'm always going to take it one step further and explain, make sure I'm very explicit and clear, how does my evidence go back to truly support my idea. But specifically what we're working on for this unit is selecting that evidence. So if you guys are going to remember, here's a kind of an inference and an analysis that I made in regards to that poem, Deer Hunt, where I looked at all of these different insights, things that I was noticing about the poem, and I put them together and analyzed them to kind of come up with this ultimate claim. And I've structured a complex observation here into kind of an opinion sentence. Here's what I think overall about this poem. Here's what I think about its insight and its complexity. So I'm saying that poem Deer Hunt explores how societal pressure can simultaneously amplify feelings of inequity and reinforce the narrator's search for acceptance, right? So he's at the same time feeling more apart from his peers, and that's in turn making him want to be accepted by them even more. And this is kind of the conflict, the main idea in the poem that I'm arguing, right? So what I need to do is, I've got what I think, now I need to go out and find some evidence to help reinforce why I think that. And as I'm looking for evidence, remember, I'm not just going to pick any random line and say, like, this will work. No, I'm looking for some strong, thorough, and explicit evidence that I can use. So what I mean by strong is that the evidence that I've chosen is the best that I could possibly find within that piece, within that text that I'm looking at. And it's thorough because I'm looking at the entirety of the work. I'm not just going to focus on like one sentence or one paragraph, but if I'm reading a book, I'm going to consider the entirety of the book as I'm trying to pick out evidence. Or if I'm reading a short story, I'm not just going to focus on one page. I'm going to look at the whole thing in order to make sure that I'm being true to what this piece is actually trying to tell me. And the last piece is, it needs to be explicit evidence. So it's something that I can literally point to in the text, like when the author says this line here. And that's what I mean by, like, I'm pointing at the facts, not an opinion. Evidence can never be your opinion of something, because if it was, then it would be, here, I have this opinion that's supported by my own opinion, and here's why you should believe my opinion. It starts to get really circular and kind of self-referential, right? So this needs to be explicit evidence from the text. These are kind of the facts and the truths that you're seeing in the text. So let's I'll give you an example here. So if I'm trying to argue that this poem is about our narrator's struggle and pressure to fit in despite the fact that he feels different, I need to kind of emphasize, I need to prove that he does feel different first. So the things that point out or that jump out to me are the different reactions to hunting itself here. So if I look at this line, where he listened to the yelping cheer of dogs and men resounding ridge to ridge, and I compare that to, I flinched at every lonely rifle crack, my knuckles whitening, or I gripped the edge of age and clung like retching, sinking back, right? Those lines, I listened to the yelping cheer of dogs and men resounding. That's some strong evidence that these men are very happy for hunting. They're excited to go out and get a deer. Whereas our narrator flinched, felt like vomiting, sinking back into himself at every rifle crack, right? That's a pretty big difference of reaction between, to the same thing, right? From cheers of joy to, oh my God, I'm going to vomit at the thought of having to kill a deer, which I can relate with, because I'm a fisherman, and every time I kill a fish, I'm just like sobbing because the fish is so pretty and it just wanted to live its little fish life, and I'm here smashing it on the rock, like crying into my waders. So I understand the reticence to kill a living being that this hunter is inevitably feeling. So that's what I think is the best evidence to prove some difference between the narrator and his community. And then I need to prove the reinforcement of the idea that he wants, despite this difference, he still wants to fit in. And I really think that this hits home, where despite his knuckles are whitening, he's still holding on to that gun. Like, this is what I'm going to do to be a man. I had taken a gun with me, right? He's got some resolve here where the poem ends to say, I need to fit in. I need to kind of prove my worth and my acceptance. So those are the pieces of direct evidence, things that I can point to in the text to back up my thesis. And so when I get to actually writing this out, here's what it might look like. And thinking about that structure, what do I think? What's my claim? Why do I think that? What's my evidence? And what helps me prove this idea? Kind of working through that explanation of my writing. And so I'm not going to read this out to you. You guys can pause this and read it. But I want to point out a couple of things in conclusion. As I'm pointing to my evidence, notice that I'm only using the critical parts of sentences, where I say, he listened to the yelping cheer of dogs and resounding men, right? I don't give the entire sentence. I cut that down to the most essential parts. And then after each quotation, I always add some explanation, right? I need to elaborate, clarify, and discuss, how does this piece of evidence, how can I prove that this piece of evidence is the best, is the strongest, and like the most clear way that I'm proving my overall claim or idea. All right, so in conclusion, just remember that evidence supports an idea or observation, and as we cite information, what we're doing is we're adding credibility to our own opinions, which, whether you're working on literature or talking about politics or even just arguing about which Avengers movie is the most boring, I don't know. You guys can back that up with some relevant argumentative techniques. All right, good luck, folks.